On August 4th, 2025, I walked the entire length of LA's Sunset Boulevard, the street in Los Angeles that has it all. From Beverly Hills Glitz and glamour, to Hollywood tourism and vagrancy, to Scientology, the Sunset Strip, rock and roll, creativity, nightlife, iconic landmarks galore, Sunset Boulevard winds through Chinatown, Echo Park, past Dodger Stadium, through Silver Lake, to Hollywood, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Bel-Air, Brentwood, the Palisades, and eventually ends on the Pacific Coast Highway. No street in the city better encapsulates the spirit of Los Angeles than Sunset Boulevard. Sunset Boulevard is around 22 miles, and it took me about 9 hours to walk the length of it. Why I chose to do it in the dead of summer is anybody's guess. Maybe I was inspired by the Cowboys in the Lonesome Dove audiobook I was listening to. Anyway, it worked out because I started a little after 10 and finished just as the sun was setting. The first decision I had to make was whether I wanted to start on the west side and make my way east or vice versa. I made the prudent decision to start on the east side because what better way to end my journey than by jumping in the ocean. I parked on Alpine Street and began on the gritty western border of Chinatown. It is a densely populated neighborhood with tons of apartments and a fair amount of unhoused people who wandered over from downtown. I saw a group of volunteers from USC giving medical assistance to a man on the street, gave them a wave, and started on my journey. I began by walking in the wrong direction. I reoriented myself and headed west toward Elysian Park. I had just finished my morning coffee and desperately needed to make water. Finding a bathroom along the eastern edge proved more difficult than I anticipated, and I ended up having to relieve myself in a parking lot behind an abandoned building. In my headphones, Augustus McCrae and Captain Cole were leading the boys north toward Montana. As I pushed on, the midday sun began to bear down on me, and was quickly drenched in sweat. I had prepared for this, bringing a change of t-shirt, but I was recovering from a serious sunburn and didn't want to get another one. I had plenty of sunscreen, but trying to rub it in on top of sweat proved challenging. Alas, I carried on toward the wayward sun. There was a long line of exclusively adolescent girls waiting to meet Vanilla Mace at Rodeo Mexican Grill. I had never heard of her, but I think it's interesting how some entertainment is so fine-tuned for specific demographics. Echo Park is a young and hip neighborhood that borders all the other cool and artsy neighborhoods in LA, like Los Feliz, Atwater Village, and Silver Lake. Each of these neighborhoods have a Bushwick, Brooklyn feel to them. Lots of stylish people with their Doc Martens and piercings and tattoos and fit bodies. These neighborhoods are also close in proximity to where the music venues are, like the Hollywood Bowl, the Echo, the Silver Lake Lounge, the Greek Theater, the Hollywood Palladium, the Wiltern, and other smaller venues. They recently hosted Echo Park Rising, where the neighborhood turns into its own version of Nashville's Broadway or Austin's 6th Street. It is also a few minutes away from tremendous hiking and public golf courses in Griffith Park and a short drive to downtown. I pushed on into Little Armenia, passing by the people doing the Lord's work at Kaiser, then marveled at the goings-on inside the ginormous Church of Scientology. Once I crossed over the 101, I had truly entered Hollywood. I was welcomed by the sleek Netflix headquarters and Sunset Gower Studios where they filmed the shows I grew up on like Full House and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. One block north is Hollywood Boulevard with monuments like the Pantages Theater, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and the Chinese Theater. This neighborhood is crowded with tourists from all over the world. Many of them with the same confused look as to why they came to Hollywood Boulevard when there is open-air drug use and trash on the streets. Hollywood is a bit of a lawless place, but that's part of the appeal in my opinion. There are also several famous bars and restaurants in this neighborhood like the classic Musso and Frank Grill, Michelli's Italian Restaurant, Gwen, Powerhouse, and Bar Liz. I was beginning to lose steam and my left foot was starting to hurt. But if Augustus McCrae can sit in the saddle for 24 hours and Poe Campo and the pigs can walk from Texas to Montana, then I could push on for the remaining 12 miles. From Highland to Fairfax, the tourists thin out. This is a transitional strip from Hollywood to Beverly Hills. There's a classic In-N-Out burger across from Hollywood High School, plenty of chain restaurants and local eateries, shops fighting for attention on the busy boulevard, while a giant guitar center clings stubbornly to life. South along the avenues, modest single-family homes sit at unreasonably high prices, trying to hold on to a sense of quiet. In the hills, mansions loom large over the boulevard, the sun reflecting off their giant windows and throwing light onto the street below. Once I got past Fairfax, I was entering the glitz and glamour of the Sunset Strip, the bright lights of Crescent Heights, towering billboards and swanky hotels, celebrity lives and celebrity deaths. The Sunset Strip stretches along the base of Hollywood Hills, offering sweeping views of Los Angeles. Though often associated with LA, it technically sits in West Hollywood, a separate city. Police officers redirect troubled folks back east down Sunset into LA's jurisdiction, where they won't scare away tourists paying top dollar at the swanky hotels. The luxurious and mythical Chateau Marmont is one of LA's most iconic monuments. Referenced countless times in popular culture, there are too many interesting stories about the hotel to list here, so I'll just say the Marmont has been a playground and refuge for celebrities since it was built in the 1920s. The Strip is also home to some of the most famous nightclubs, comedy venues, and lounges in the world. It played a large part in rock and roll history. Many of the biggest acts in the 60s and 70s mastered their craft in their homes in the hills and came to perform at venues like the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Roxy Theater, Rainbow Bar and Grill, and the now closed Gazzeries. River Phoenix famously and tragically overdosed during a set at Johnny Depp's Viper Room. All the biggest names in comedy have graced the stage at the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory. Exclusive celebrity hangouts like the Sky Bar and the Mondrian Hotel and Bar Marmont add to the Strip's allure. When visiting Los Angeles, it is a must to check out the Strip, whether it's for a meal, a music show, or a night of comedy. The music videos are small and intimate, and typically the prices are reasonable. Nowadays, the big names in music perform at bigger venues like the Kia Forum, Crypto, SoFi, etc. West of the Sunset Strip lies Beverly Hills. South of the Boulevard is the Flats, a gorgeous neighborhood where normal people like you and me could go on peaceful walks and jogs among elegant homes. North of the Boulevard are the Trousdale Estates, Benedict Canyon, and Beverly Hills Park, where celebrities and media moguls reside. By now, I was running real low on energy, but the sun was lowering on the horizon. In my headphones, the Cowboys were making their way through a storm of grasshoppers. Blue Duck was continuing to cause havoc, and Newt was becoming a man. But I still had miles to go. Once I passed through Beverly Hills and had made it back into Los Angeles, I got to my least favorite part of the whole walk. The neighborhood of Holmby Hills is beautiful, but the sidewalk was scarce or just plain non-existent. Meanwhile, it was rush hour, and cars were zooming down Sunset's tight curves. I tiptoed along the curb and through the brush, holding my breath so I didn't accidentally spill onto the street. Much to my relief, I finally emerged near UCLA, where the workers at the library were nice enough to let me use their outlets to charge my phone despite the fact that I stank like sweat and sunscreen. After resting in the air conditioning for a few minutes and juicing my phone back to 60%, I said thank you and headed back out to the street. By this point, I was mentally mapping out how close I was to the end, setting milestones in my head, thinking, okay, I just need to make it to the 405, then Brentwood, then Riviera, and I'm practically there. It's also worth noting how different this part of Sunset feels from the Sunset Strip and Hollywood and all the other parts east of it. Alongside the street are varying single-family homes, some of them being modest homes you'd find in any suburb, and others looking like they belong in Beverly Hills or Bel-Air. I crossed over the nightmarish 405 and into Brentwood, grateful to be in the home stretch. First, I needed to refuel, so I got some of the best food that Brentwood has to offer. I'd yet to realize the end of my walk would have the most incline. I was beginning to notice a few burn scars along the way as I entered Riviera, the neighborhood that typically hosts the Genesis Invitational. The western edge of Sunset Boulevard is not very tourist friendly. There's not a lot going on there, it's more of a neighborhood. Brentwood is nearby with some restaurants and hangouts, but it's mostly a sleepy, wealthy suburb. My favorite place to hike was Will Rogers State Park, but it appears to still be closed due to fire damage. I was entering the last neighborhood of the trip, the Palisades. I was expecting a euphoric feeling. I loved the Palisades. In my head, the Palisades fire had happened in the hills, and parts of it did, but the main strip of the Palisades village had been leveled. It's devastating. This is 8 months after the fire, too. Some people are beginning to rebuild, but there's still tons of debris from the fire. There are makeshift AT&T carts that I would guess are providing Wi-Fi because the fiber optics were destroyed by the fire. It was a ghost town. There was nobody there. Even the businesses that survived were empty. The only people in the neighborhood I saw were police officers. Google Maps told me I would have to walk around, but there wasn't anybody to stop and redirect me, so I plugged forward through the carnage of charred trees and telephone wire. I still have cuts on my legs and arms from trying to get through the foliage. Finally, while still making my way through the burn-scarred foliage, I saw the ocean. I was super tempted to turn left on Temescal Canyon Road, to take about a mile off my journey and just get to the ocean and get it over with, but I knew it wouldn't feel as fulfilling, so I pushed on for that last mile. And then, greeting me, was the ocean, shimmering endlessly forever in the setting sun. My wife on her way to take me home after I jumped in the Pacific. It was the perfect end to an unforgettable day.